Parkinson Network has officially opened its Lost and Found department. We have these glasses that were left at the September meeting, and is if anyone does anyone recognize these? They're reading glasses. We had another. Yes, I believe so. Oh, really? Awesome! 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 Our Lost and Found department is officially empty now.
Hello, everybody. I hope you hear me. If not, just let me know. I will take off microphones and speak my own words and voice. Thank you very much for coming today. I was very happy to see the number that Ivan was reporting, and I see that is a lot of interest in what we have to say about nutrition, which is a very, very big thing to really know and learn on a daily basis, I would say. My name is Mito Zelenjakovic, and I am a citizen here for about 30 years, almost 30 years. I came originally from Bosnia, war torn country, and as a refugee, I um, was given, me and my family, a lot of help, and I was always after that thinking how I can, give back. And a Rochester network, as all you are, uh, helped me to do that because all my time after I graduated from SUNY Brockport uh, kind of led me into this direction, to do chronic diseases. And finally, I'm giving something out. So this is really helpful, and I'm very grateful for all that and all of you that you're here today. Um, so, nutrition. We talk about nutrition all the time. Everybody's expert in nutrition. Everybody knows what to do, how to do it. But there is like a rabbit hole. There is so much information. There is so much positive, negative information. One person say it this way, another person say it that way. But one thing is for sure, um, you cannot out train bad diet. I'll repeat one more time. You cannot out train bad diet. Me being exercise expert, I am always saying to myself and to others, that's my second uh, job. My first job is to try to teach and encourage a lifestyle to be healthier eating and knowledge about nutrition, but not every kind of knowledge because there's so much knowledge about nutrition. I'm just sticking to the basic of everything, basic of the nutrition that everybody can follow. And it should be easy, but people think that exercise and lifting weights and doing squats, doing push-ups is the hardest part. The hardest part is nutrition. Why? Because there's need for kitchen work. There's a need to put things together, healthy things together. There's a need to know what to shop for, how to shop, when to shop, the time of the eating. As Ivan mentioned, we're all different. We approach different way on our days, but it's very important to schedule and plan your day and your hours of any eating or any meal that you practically will have to do it, through the day. So I would like to say, you probably read already all these things here, and um, please, if you can think about what is very correlation between these two. So diet and what Parkinson's does to the body, and how much affects the body. Now, what we get with the nutrition. We get all these vitamins, we go micronutrients, and it improves so many things that Parkinson's tried to shut down. But if you eat properly and correct, you can boost all that and you can make progress on that. And that's what it's about, to think about proper nutrition. And with Rochester School of Fitness is what what we do on the regular basis. This is my business, but secondary business is my nonprofit organization, which is the Fitness Initiative, and I'm working very hard to organize nutritional classes and cooking classes that, as Ivan said, is very dangerous, but everything that I do is based on research, and everything that research say, I follow that, and I try to figure out what is the best way or easiest way to get to the proper eating and proper nutrition. All that said, I have a little questionnaire for all of you to try to do a little bit towards the grant and towards the research. So if you don't mind, just to circle yes or no, or to just put 1 to 5, because these are two different kinds. One of them has 2 pages, which is on the other side, and one is just 1 page. And I thank you for that. That will help us, to organize or do much faster our things that we're planning to do. And I'm working with Ivan very closely to see how we can put all that together and help, not to teach you because everybody knows it, but to organize you and plan and show how easily it can be done, and how easily can be, embrace something that is more simple than what we think it is. So talking about healthy food, I stick to the four important foods that is the basic of all nutrition. Is the protein, the vegetables, the fruits, and healthy oils. So you stick to that. As Ivan mentioned, there is important part of that is Mediterranean diet. It's way to live, because this is something that doesn't have a label. It's not in the box, and our body recognizes much better and healthier, if you will, because gets proper nutrition and body reacts to it. Our cells, our body in general, all organs get what they normally do, and and what they need. I always use analogy of 2 cars. One is racing cars, and the other one will be Chevy or Ford or something like that. Difference in nutrition, or difference in the gas. One takes 87 octane, the other one takes probably 102. So we need to think about us as a racing cars and how much our body needs healthy micronutrients, vitamins, and other healthy fats. So that's where you should start thinking of to putting some work and to do certain things, for yourself. And I like to talk to my people that are today here about what can be changed, what can be done the moment when they really like, I use just a cereal, pour in the box, and this is what I eat. That's not what your body needs. Your body needs protein, your body needs vegetables, your body needs good sugar, which is coming from the fruit. But industrial part is making easier to get the boxes, pick something that is processed, a lot of sugar in it, starting from bread to everything else. And that's the one of the biggest inflammatory things for everybody, not just Parkinson's disease, but every single body is affected by sugar. And if you think everything is pretty much, sugar related and has some sort of sugar, but my 4 points, they don't have. You won't find sugar in vegetables or in a protein or in a good fat. So that's where part of healthy eating and healthy planning should be done. Not a lot of people mention, when they talk about it, hydration. And that's one of the big things that I'm reading as a research, what researchers say about is about hydration. Parkinson's individuals with the Parkinson's, actually, they have very fast dehydration than any other person. So hydration on the regular basis, on the every step where you do it, it's actually good because hydration helps so many things in our body. Our cells are all water. We collapse if we're dehydrated because our body cannot function because water does not, circulate around, and our heart works better because our blood is much thinner when we're hydrated. So hydration is very important and necessary to do it. Our red cells multiply in the water, and red cells are one of the part that brings our oxygen to all our body. So that's the part where, hydration comes in to promote better energized body than just a sluggish or willing to sit. So hydration definitely, if it's not on your menu or if it's not on the table, please put it on. Carry the bottle with you. Uh, that's very simple and easy. You can refill it in so many ways, but it's important to have it. So go for that. Um, in the last meeting with, she was actually nutritional speaker on a big meeting for the, I think it was a convention that we had in Henrietta. I was talking to a lady who was a neurologist, and she was talking about nutrition and everything. So I checked what I was reading about um, Ayurveda and how much that can help, to individuals with Parkinson's. Um, Dr. Barbosa will actually check a little bit and confirm that this is okay because some of these can interact with the medication that you guys might have, but there is a ways, to do it, and something that is very important to add as like a vitamin, for example. As Ivan mentioned, not everybody is um, absorbing or taking. Not everybody's like same and doesn't absorb the same way. For some people, one will work, another will work, or none of them will work. But it's worth to trying because it's still natural and it's a good way to put nutrition on the higher level or the higher shelf where you can improve daily living. So all these things are important to kind of figure out which way you go. How that happens, it happens with planning. I like to talk about planning because if we don't have a plan, we plan to fail. So for everything, as you guys know, when you work, you did a lot of planning. You planned for the family, you planned for the kids. Now it's time to plan for yourself. You have to figure out how you're going to cook, when you're going to cook, which way you're going to cook. And this is one of the parts that the fitness initiative we're trying to, put together and have a class to literally get the small basic of planning and figuring out things, what works and how that would work for you. And with the help, around the house, that could be achieved in much easier way than everybody thinks. So starting with a plan is something that will definitely be helpful to do the. Uh, so as I said, medication are the problem. That can mix or can't mix with this. So whenever you have idea to try something, please talk to your doctors. Because they know and they can definitely will direct you what is right or what is wrong for you. And when I talked to this doctor, uh, she said that this is pretty much what is very okay to do it, and they don't interact in a bad way with the medication. Again, we'll leave that to Dr. Barbosa to give us a little more knowledge about that. Another thing that I was reading a lot, research is probably that not a lot of you know, it's the creatine. Creatine is produced in our body, and it caught my attention, because I read few articles, few researchers talking about creatine and how good it is because it's good for our first mental stage, then helps our muscle recovery when you exercise or walk or do something. So as we are getting older, creatine production in our body is a little less. So that's where, you can take supplements. And for my shocking kind of news, I asked about 5 grams of creatine with this doctor, and she said, like, yeah, you can go definitely 20, no problem. And I was very shocked. But again, I would not say much about that, except that creatine does help a lot of things. I had my thesis in school about creatine, and the only thing so far that is a problem is if you don't drink water, you will have a cramps. That's the biggest kind of problem. If you have a creatine, that's the only thing that so far it's happening. Of course, there's a research still going, to figure out what creatine does on the longer run, but it's, I think, a good thing to talk to your doctor, to maybe, kind of learn a little more about it or what can be done. And again, is it interacting in any medication or anything that you guys might, try? So as you see, what everything improves, as we are younger, we have enough of that, so that's, one of the things that young people always have, like, less soreness than we do, like I'm sore for 5 days after one workout. And just when, my soreness goes away, starts another, so that's, how our, body functions when we get older. And for young kids, I train athletes too, and they're like, oh, I was sore yesterday and now I'm perfectly fine. We can do it again. I'm like, yeah, of course, you're 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. Of course you can do that. So that's the way how creatine really works. A big research that was kind of focused on was actually on neuro, a part of our brain, which is very helpful. And there's more that needs to be done, but they're kind of focusing on that, and it's a, I think, good part that they're focusing on something like that our body kind of locks off because of our age. So this is where, like creatine, I focus on that now because I see the benefits of it, and I'm using it now probably over 25 years. Even my water now has 5 grams of creatine in it. But it's good to learn more if you did not know about it. It's good to talk to your doctor or any medical, a person that can give you a little more advanced knowledge about it, because it does help a lot of things. Stiffness or any kind of soreness, that is where, definitely will be a good thing to learn more about it. So again, back to it. Thank you, Kevin. You stretched me a little more. I hope you guys can read all this. I don't want to read to you, because there's a lot of, as I mentioned, muscle. Yes, muscle mass, and this is what we need, more muscle mass to be able to move, to be able to do exercises, to be able to walk. And latest research is saying our strength and long life is related with strength of our legs. So if you have strong legs, if you exercise your legs, it will take you way further than somebody who doesn't, because you will be able to hang out with your peers. You will be going places, you will be moving more and able to exercise. So all those things are kind of connected. That researchers kind of check uh, uh, strength and physiological part, and then psychological part. That's kind of combo of what Ivan also mentioned, all these 5 places in the world where people live 100+ years, because they're moving all the time, their legs are strong, they're doing together as a community, they're hanging out together. So that all helps in both kind of ways. I will not go further with this one because safety and usage, of course, they all on any package that you will, have, will say 5 grams or 2 pills. Still, again, I would first recommend you to learn a little bit more about it, to talk to your doctors a little bit about that, and then whatever doctors recommend you will be something, to go for or not. So either way is what doctors suggest. So that will be like something, that if you didn't know about, it's good maybe to try and figure out what and which way you're going to do it. The biggest thing again is hydration, hydration, hydration. And this is the thing where you need to first embrace in order to start doing something like this. Because if you drink enough water, you will not have cramps. If you don't, you skip it, definitely you'll feel it through the night. Once you try to stretch, calf right away gets and sees up. Been there, done that, but it happens. So that's something, to kind of be, unaware. Now we're going to the second part of uh, uh, where I am sort of expert, but exercise is very important um, for your body after you get great nutrition, because you will be able to exercise more, you will be able to be movable more, uh, you will be having enough strength where your body will kind of keep everything in order by exercising. So stiffness that Parkinson's gives, is something that yoga will, kind of help. Stretching and strengthening your body. So strong muscle is the strong tendons and ligaments. They keep joints together, but they're moving. Your body lubricates your joints while you're exercising, and that's the natural kind of against stiffness tool that your body provides naturally if you are doing everything properly. So on new things that actually I'm doing it since I read about vibration plate, and that's one of the parts where researchers are so hang up on that because they are seeing good progress and good things that happens. The only problem is that it doesn't last, but lasts about, from what I asked my guys that are training with me on that, about a day and a half. Some of them experience 2 days, depends on how long we are doing on a vibration plate. It's the new thing that researchers kind of trying to push, because I translate from what I learned on the research. It's like a snow globe, you shake it and snow goes up, and then you stop it and it wants to come down. Our central nervous system reacts on any shake, on any trauma, and then after that it wants to calm down. So between 25 hertz and 60 hertz is what vibration plates can produce, is what actually shakes your certain central nervous system. And then after that, you're much calmer. I tested on this size of the zipper with one of the guys that trained with me before and after. And when he comes to exercise, his tremors are so big that he could not point zipper in order to zip it up. After we finish vibration plate therapy, session, he is just putting it together, and much easier, to pull it up and go on. So it does work, and that's kind of promising, for the future, that really you feel better after what is done. So the mood, to try to explain mood, everybody, not just people with the chronic diseases, but everybody gets in a better mood because of our endorphins. Everybody is much more like boost up, if you will, because they feel more energy with the exercise. And again, back to the red cells that bring oxygen, because when you exercise, you breathe much harder, which means you're inhaling more oxygen, your body is receiving more oxygen, your muscle receive more oxygen, and your brain definitely receives more oxygen. So that's where it's kind of, chain reaction to get your self-esteem, right away up, and you feel that you can do much more things that you couldn't do it, before you're starting exercises. So it's very, very important to understand that exercise does so many things, not just one, so many things that is like very, very important. And especially as we get old, again, I'm not saying of any chronic diseases, but in general, we all get stiff, we all have joint problems, we all have arthritis, coming to us. And, in the morning is the worst part, but with a little exercise, that morning can be much easier and suitable. So here's the key of everything. Would like to check this, on the nutrition. I would like to definitely put like huge point on that, because it's the important part. And like I said, it's the your gas, and then exercise is your engine power that you can get with it. So it really is important. Do you have any questions quick for me? There's not a lot of time left, but I would like to answer if anything that you might have through all this. Yes, please. On the vibration plate, it's the standing. So you stand on the vibration plate. It's a big plastic plate. You stand on it, and the vibration reaches all the way up to top of your head, your neck. I mean, you feel small soothing vibration, and it does work on your CNS. Much easier that way. And there's positions, of course, there's a lot of different positions on vibration plate that you do, like locking knees, softening, putting arms out, putting arms back, putting arms this way. So there's so many different ways how you can get your central nervous system engaging with vibration plate. You're welcome. Yes.
Is the creatine a powder or a capsule?
There's a both. Is the creatine powder or capsule? There's both. Can be both. Depends what is easier for you to do it. For example, I do powder because I place it in my water, and then I'm sipping through the whole day. So you can go if you're on the run. You can have just a couple of capsules, and then off you go.
What was the amount you said about creatine?
I do 5 because that's what a recommendation is when you buy it. That's right. Even this doctor told me you can go 20 grams.
Oh, grams.
So that's a grams. That's right. It's a grams. A very small amount. That's right. It's a tiny amount. But it's plenty, I would say, for 5. But again, please check with your doctors first. See what and how that will work with your body, and then go from there.
I've seen the vibration plates online, but I wouldn't know what to buy.
First, to get vibration plate, and get in the house, you first have to be very safe to do that. Possibility of losing balance, falling off of it, where you're at, what you're holding on. Do you hold on to anything? That's the first thing. So safety first. And second thing is, like, not every vibration plate produces 25 to 60 hertz. There's I would say probably 300 different kinds. And the ones that are very cheap, between $200, between, let me see, about $200 to $800, they're, like cheap ones that don't produce what really needs to be done. And another ones that are much higher, that's the one that factory guarantees on the hertz that we're looking for. So I would not recommend you to have it at home. I have one, but this is what I'm doing now. I'm trying to figure out, what and how research, approaching that. So I have a few people that work out with me, and they're doing a vibration plate, and I'm collecting some data, because, like I said, the Fitness Initiative needs some data, for this, and this will help also what you guys do in order to get grants for something that we can put it as a group, and put a little more on everything. Yes, sir.
Could you explain a little bit about what the Fitness Initiative is?
I'm sorry. The Fitness Initiative is the organization that works also on chronic diseases, and I am trying to work with Excellus and other grantees that will help us to do this way with the network, most of nutrition and exercise kind of together. And if we get Lindsay, to get together under that umbrella to do a little more PT and to be supported by grant, so we can organize everybody together and work in that direction. So the Fitness Initiative is a nonprofit organization that I started in order to give back since I got it, as a refugee when I came in 1995. So you're welcome. If no questions, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I will hopefully see you soon again.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, so just for introductions, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Will Barbosa. I'm a movement disorder specialist at the University of Rochester. First, I just want to say before getting started, it's great to see everyone here in attendance. I think that oftentimes we don't emphasize enough the importance of lifestyle modification in the treatment of Parkinson's disease. But I would just encourage everyone to say that when done on a consistent basis, it can truly make a meaningful difference in your day-to-day. So I'm glad to see that there's interest in people being here today to learn more about that. And I was asked to speak more specifically on how does the food you eat interact with your medications. And I'll be talking more specifically about carbidopa levodopa in particular, given that that's a mainstay for treatment in Parkinson's disease. My hope is that this can be an interactive session. I have thoughts, but I also want to hear from you to see what are your thoughts, and to also provide opportunities to ask questions as they come up. So oftentimes when I'm in clinic seeing patients, I get asked this question of, how do I take my medicines? Do I take it with food, or do I take it on an empty stomach? And before sharing my thoughts, I want to hear from you. What have people heard about this? Should you take your medications with food or without food? I think I see Yvonne's hand in the back. What have you heard?
I've always heard that taking medication with food slows down the absorption or uptake of carbidopa levodopa. And fully respect that notion. However, it does not apply to me. I can eat a raw hamburger which I don't recommend, but I don't notice the effect of the competition between protein and my medication.
Yeah, and so just to summarize a bit about what you said, you had mentioned that maybe that there's some interaction with protein and it can affect the rate that it's taken up, but for you it seems to be very different than what's told for other people. Anyone else want to share anything?
For me, it's a roll of the dice.
A bit of a roll of the dice, and what do you mean by that?
If having eaten within over or under an hour before I take my carbidopa, absorption. Sometimes I get a great benefit of the med, regardless if I just take lunch. Sometimes I don't have that hour to spare to wait for it.
Yeah.
So you take that chance and hope for the best.
So again, just to summarize a bit, you're saying it's a bit of a roll of a dice, and it can really vary, the timing of the effectiveness of your medication and how you're taking your medications. So there can be some variability there, for sure. Anyone else want to share some thoughts about timing? Yeah, sure.
Well, my husband has Parkinson's, but I read where it said like using dairy products and taking it with dairy is not good, and then it's better to take it before you eat. But then the timing of when you take the medication seems to fall right around. Remember to take it is usually around the different meal times, so it's kind of a or how do you.
Yeah, so you're mentioning that maybe the impact of dairy on how medications are absorbed, oftentimes that's around mealtime, so the question is, well, how do you navigate that? So that's why I'm here today, to hopefully provide some clarity, and also just again to emphasize that at the end of the day, this is very much an individualized plan, so take my recommendations that I have for you today, but ultimately talk about it with your doctor as well to say, does this make sense for my situation? So when thinking about medications, and how are they absorbed into your system, there's two things you want to consider, right? One is the rate of absorption, so how fast does it take for that medication to be absorbed? Another is the amount, how much is the total amount that's getting into your system. Now the rate of absorption, so when you take a pill and you swallow it, the time that it takes to go from your mouth, down your esophagus, into your stomach, into your small intestinal tract, to then diffuse into your blood, that takes time. And that process can be influenced by a few different things. One, so GI motility, it's affected in Parkinson's disease. A very common symptom that people experience with Parkinson's disease is constipation. And that's because that rate of absorption, that time in GI motility, can slow down in Parkinson's disease. So we have to be especially mindful of the other contributors that can cause things to slow down. So what are they? So with slowing down of GI motility, people can get constipation. And so what are the contributors of constipation? Well, you've already heard quite a few great recommendations today about ways that you can counteract constipation. One, mainly through diet. So leafy greens being your friend, foods that are high in fiber can help with bowel motility. And also optimize constipation, optimize ways that you can get your medications in a timely manner to your small intestine to then be absorbed more effectively. So I do want to emphasize again the importance of lifestyle modification in helping the rate of absorption. Now, what about the amount? So how much of that medication is getting into your bloodstream? Well, that can be largely influenced by protein content. And so that's something that we've already heard a little bit about in thinking about protein. And so it's interesting to hear that Yvonne's perspective, we heard maybe, like for me, it's not so much a factor, but then from other perspectives, for other people, it can be quite impactful. And then the concerns for dairy also being one of the main contributors. So just by show of hands, I'm interested to know how many people have heard, if you have Parkinson's disease, you should avoid protein. How many people have heard that? So that's a fair number of people, and it's a common message that I receive when people are talking to me in clinic. I will start off with saying that protein is not the enemy, but you have to be mindful of how are you eating protein. So there are studies that the way that protein is metabolized, it's very similar to how carbidopa-levodopa is metabolized. They use similar ways to diffuse through the small intestine into the bloodstream, and so they kind of compete in the same way for how are they being absorbed. So what ends up happening is that oftentimes, if you eat protein-dense meals, like a big steak, you might notice that your medications aren't as effective. And as already alluded to before, everyone's different, but in general, this tends to be a common theme for many people to be aware of. So, protein content. You don't want to eliminate it entirely from your diet. It is a necessary and a part of your nutritional intake, but you want to be mindful of how are you consuming protein. Ideally, you want to have it spread out throughout the course of the day in smaller amounts if possible, trying to avoid single meals that are protein dense, like having a big steak. As delicious as that might be, you should be aware that it also might potentially affect how your medications are being absorbed into your bloodstream. And so trying to spread out the course of the day, your protein intake, being mindful that protein-dense meals, especially things like red meats, can really affect the rate of absorption, and trying to think of potential substitutes. So dairy, mentioned also, it's a source of protein. Trying to think of other alternatives for dairy, such as like oat milks or things of that variety, can help minimize some of the difficulties with absorption. And then thinking about substitutes for things like red meat, part of the Mediterranean diet, fish. Fish is a protein source, but tends to be a little bit easier absorbed into the GI tract. It doesn't compete as much with the medication carbidopa-levodopa. So those are things that to definitely be aware of and mindful when thinking about protein. Just thinking about spreading it out throughout the day. And then also thinking about potential protein substitutes that you may want to implement in your diet to try and minimize the rate of absorption. Now for the timing of, well, do I take it with food? Do I take my medications with food or without food? That's an individualized, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution here. And the reason why I say that is sometimes we actually use this to our advantage. So for example, I'll give you two scenarios. One scenario, someone may say that, oh, when I take my medication, it takes a long time for it to kick in. I feel particularly off, and it's not as effective. It takes a good chunk of time before I'm starting to notice some benefit. In that scenario, we may say, well, you should try taking your medications on an empty stomach or taking it 30 minutes to an hour before your meals with the hope that you improve the rate of absorption and having more of the drug in your system earlier on. On another scenario, we may have someone that says, you know, when I take my medicines, I get quite nauseous. It's something that I've noticed every time I'm taking my medications. The nauseas are really affecting my quality of life, and it's something that it's a side effect that I'm noticing. In those situations, we may say, if you're feeling a little bit nauseous, then take it with food, because you might be able to slow the rate of absorption a little bit and help mitigate some of those side effects that can be pretty common with the medication. And so for the timing of should you take the medicine with food or without, it's really an individualized plan that you should talk about with your doctor to see what makes the most sense for you. I think there was maybe a hand raised or a question in the back there.
I have one because about absorption. I read a couple of researchers that are saying substance in the pepper or pepper itself, if you take it a little bit with any kind of pill, helps absorption. Do you know anything about it, or can you tell us anything about it?
That's interesting. So I can't say that I've heard any studies or preliminary results regarding pepper consumption and the rate of absorption.
It's like a smaller than like 2 grams of pepper.
Yeah.
It's a small amount.
So it's something that I would have to look into myself, because I certainly haven't heard of those studies. But and I also do say that a lot of this is a bit of trial and error. So finding out what diets make the most sense for you, finding out how your body metabolizes the medications, it's different for everyone. But these generalized themes or concepts that you can take with you when you talk with your doctor to come up with a plan together that makes sense about how should you be taking your medications, at what time, and thinking about dietary influence as well.
So we know, obviously we know a lot of people with Parkinson's disease. What I hear quite often from people is that carbidopa-levodopa, Sinemet, causes them nausea to the point where they just can't take their medication. However, carbidopa is intended to reduce the impact of levodopa on nausea. Is it possible to increase the amount of carbidopa that someone takes when they take their medication to relieve those nausea symptoms?
So certainly. So when we think of Sinemet, it's a combination medication that includes carbidopa and levodopa, typically in the ratio of about 25 to 100. And for certain people, if taking your medications with food isn't enough to treat the nausea, you can consider actually giving additional supplemental carbidopa. So there's carbidopa that can be taken in addition to the Sinemet. So low-dosin is the name for carbidopa that you can take in combination with Sinemet to try and further minimize some of the nausea. So that's something, there are options as far as pharmacologic options to try and minimize side effects. But again, just emphasizing that it's not usually just a one-size-fits-all approach. It's usually a few different factors that are working in combination together to try and get you your best result. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What about extended release carbidopa?
Yeah, and so what do you mean a little bit more? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I've been prescribed it at times. I'm not currently on it, but I'm curious about it. If there's any impact to doing it.
Yeah, so I would certainly talk with your doctor, but of course, yeah. So the question was extended release carbidopa-levodopa. Is it okay to take it on an empty stomach, and does that have any influence on the rate of absorption? That was the main question. So emphasizing again that everyone's different, and certainly to talk with your doctor about prescriptions and medication management. But I will also add that extended release or controlled release carbidopa-levodopa tends to be absorbed a little bit slower and tends to minimize side effect profile, but there's trade-offs with regards to how does it optimize your motor function. So these are things that certainly you want to talk with your doctor that's prescribing, but it would be safe to take on an empty stomach with the understanding that you should have this conversation with your doctor. That's a great idea. So oftentimes for people that are looking to still get that protein content in their day-to-day, one way to do that is with protein supplements or protein drinks in particular, shakes. That's something that you can certainly just take. They don't have to be large volume. They can be your small produced shakes throughout the day as opposed to one given meal. And that's one effective strategy that people can use to try and spread their protein content throughout the day.
So separate from the metabolism of carbidopa-levodopa, is dairy contraindicated in Parkinson's?
So that's a great question. I think it goes into the point that was raised earlier.
Right.
Dairy is not contraindicated in Parkinson's disease, but it is a protein source that can affect how you process your medications. So oftentimes people will say, if I'm having a lot of dairy in my diet, my medications aren't working as effectively. And that's when you would think again about what are dairy substitutes to think about,
Right.
or maybe the timing of your medications relative to when you're
But
consuming
dairy
the
in and
dairy.
of itself is separate from how it's metabolized through the med is okay.
Certainly, there's no strict contraindications for dairy and Parkinson's in particular.
Okay. And then what do you think about a probiotic supplement with Parkinson's?
That's another great question. So the question was, what are the thoughts regarding probiotics in Parkinson's disease? So we talked a little bit about how the medication is absorbed. It's related to the rate and part of absorption and bowel motility. If things are backed up with constipation, things might be affected. And oftentimes people will try probiotics to try and promote a healthier GI health and better improved bowel motility. That's something that I would say I would encourage people, if they're having issues in that regards, that's something that I've had patients have benefit from in trying just a probiotic as a supplement to their day-to-day. Again, being mindful about monitoring any concerns for if you're feeling like it's affecting the way that you're processing your medications and having that conversation with your main doctor. But I would say that I've had people have benefit from trying a probiotic just to try and promote bowel motility. Talking about bowel health in general, the one thing I'll also add is hydration. So hydration, it's great from a physical standpoint and being able to preserve mobility and muscle health, but it's also great from a bowel standpoint. It helps soften stools. It helps allow people to pass bowel movements a little bit more easily. So hydration, to follow up, the amount that's typically recommended is about 64 ounces daily. So what is that? So if you look, everyone has these like disposable water bottles. That's about 4 of those a day, just to give some rough estimate of the goal that we try to aim for on the daily intake of water. Try to aim for about 4 of those disposable bottles of water daily. That can help for just promoting muscle health, but also helping preserve bowel motility and soften your stools.
Carbonated beverages, carbonated seltzer, or water would increase your uptake or improve your uptake of carbonated?
That's another great point, so I'll repeat that. The question was, do carbonated beverages help improve the rate of absorption? And I'll say, if you look for like controlled trials or studies, you're not going to find that, but anecdotally, I know that certainly that's something that we recommend patients for if they're having some difficulties with delayed onset of benefit of medications. You can try crushing the medication and taking it with a carbonated beverage, such as carbonated water, to help try and improve the speed of how fast you absorb it. I think one of the sessions that's coming up, Dr. Lizarraga, he's going to talk a bit about DBS, but he was actually the doctor that told me that for the first time. And so it's something that it's also implemented in our clinic at Rochester. But these are all great questions, and I think a lot of times there's some confusion about, and I just want to add the understanding that everyone's situation is different, and again, these are generalized themes that can help hopefully guide conversations that you have with your movement disorder specialist.
Are there nutritionists or dietitians in Rochester that specialize in Parkinson's?
So that is a great question. Oftentimes in our clinic, we do have a nutritionist that we refer through. It's not a specific person, it's more of a department, so I can't provide a name, But we do have nutritionists that can be referred through University of Rochester and our network to discuss specific dietary concerns with regards to Parkinson's as well.
Then my last question is, I've been reading a lot about foods with nicotine that naturally occur, like potatoes, forms of eggplant. There's been some thought that that might be beneficial to Parkinson's. About that.
So that's something, yeah, I have not heard much about. I don't believe there's any trials that have looked into that, but something that I'd be interested to learn more about. Certainly I can look into that.
Thank you.
Of course.
Can I go back to the crushing of the pills with the seltzer?
Yeah.
Why crush them? Absorption?
So that would help speed absorption a little bit. The understanding is that, yeah, it's just one of the ways that we can help speed up the onset of how quickly it's absorbed. So the question was, why crush the medication? And that's just to help speed things along.
But you would not want to do that with extended release.
Correct. So again, this is for the immediate release version of Sinemet, but the controlled extended release, you would not want to crush. And whenever making adjustments to your medications, again, before you do anything, always check in with your doctor. The question is the extended release also impacted by taking it at the same time you eat? Yes, it is. So regardless if it's an immediate release or an extended release, your diet is going to impact how you absorb and process your medications.
Will it be able to get a shot instead of the pill?
So medications as far as like for treatment? Okay. Is it available?
My husband's he developed right now very hard of swallowing. By the time he swallows, it's time to get another pill. Mornings,
No.
9 o'clock, he holds it in his mouth, he will not swallow, and he 2 hours.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
So sometimes we're off.
Yeah.
Because, by the time he swallows, it's 11 o'clock. Now, 2 o'clock you have to give it. But he should have it at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
So
I give him every 3.
I think that's
So
an
it's like,
that's an important question that you raise is, well,
sometimes I feel like in the morning, give him a shot and done over.
so believe it or not, this is a little bit off the topic of today's talk, but we can certainly talk more later about this. There are ways that we can offer treatment that don't involve taking medications. So there are pumps available, one of which was just recently FDA approved as like a subcutaneous pump. But there's hope. That's the message I want to give, is that there are ways in the future that encouraging to talk with your provider about what are the options for treatment if it seems as though swallowing in and of itself is a barrier. No worries.
Potential options that you're talking about, the injections, are there still side effects with those?
So yeah, the question is, with other forms of treatment, are there side effects? And there are. It's usually still the mainstay of the treatment that we're giving is at the core of it. It's the same medicine. It's just how are we giving it? And so the side effect profile tends to be very comparable. Yeah.
We'll take one last question, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, last question. Here we go.
Say you take your med, and it typically takes, it takes me an hour for carbidopa levodopa to feel its effect. At what point would you actually recognize that it bombed, it didn't take effect?
So I want to make sure I understood your question correctly.
I'll give you a specific.
Yeah, go for it.
When we began this meeting, I took my carbidopa levodopa. 90 minutes later,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting an effect.
Yeah, so sometimes there can be unpredictable off periods. And that might not only be related to your diet, may be related to your individual journey with Parkinson's disease, and something that I would encourage to talk with your main doctor about. But I do want to summarize the main points for what I'm hoping that you take from today. So when thinking about the bioavailability of your medication or how much medication is in your system, think about the rate of absorption. Things that can contribute to slowing the rate are constipation. So leafy greens, high fiber, staying well hydrated, these are going to be great ways to minimize the impact of slowed rate of absorption. And also thinking about the amount that's being absorbed, so protein content in foods, being mindful that to try and spread that out more so throughout the day. And the timing of when do you take your medications with food or without food, that's really an individualized plan that you should come up with your main doctor. But I just want to say thank you again for your attention and everyone being here today. There we go.
I want to thank our three presenters today, Yvonne Hilton, Mito Zelanovic. I got that right? Close enough. Zelanovic. There we go, Zelanovic. Oh, gosh. I have to go to a class to learn how to pronounce that, I'm afraid. And Dr. Will Barbosa. And Dr. Will Barbosa, thank you all for being here and delivering this excellent information. And I want to thank you, the network, for being here. You are why we exist. Thanks for coming.